Hey guys, it's time for 13 days of Halloween, the most wonderful time of the year. I feel like I say that about everything. But yeah, 13 videos inspired by Halloween and or fall. So I'm starting out on a tag-shaped kind of piece of packaging from Tim Holtz Ideology Packaging. And I'm going to collage some vintage German book text on. I feel like the German, I don't know if it's because it's like kind of like gothic looking, this text, but I feel like it kind of lends like a little bit of a creepy vibe. So I wanted to use this specific paper, and I'm just going to collage that on with my Collage Page mat. And once I'm happy with the way that looks, I'm going to take this new Tim Holtz paper stash, Abandon it's called. Oh, the paper in this is so good, you guys. So I'm going to take this green piece. I could really see myself using this like for a lot of other things. It has that delightful layered kind of grungy look. And a lot of the colors aren't specifically like Halloween-y, which is why I got it. Because I don't like to buy a whole lot of themed products because I feel like they're not worth the money really, because I don't know. I'm a slow crafter, so I don't really make that many themed projects. So anyway, I'm going to take some distress ink and peeled paint and mowed lawn. And oh, I ran my distressor, my paper distressor, around my whole paper sheet to kind of rough up the edges a little bit and make it look not so perfect. And then I'm going to take my distress ink in the two green colors that I showed you, and I'm going to take my ink blending tool and just kind of run that around the edges. And then I also bent some pieces, or bent some areas of the page, and then ran the ink there to add like a little bit of I don't want to call it highlight because it's a darker color. Low light, maybe? So, and then I thought I was going to do some extra like inking on top, so I added a layer of Collage Page mat to protect it. But then I walked away for a day and came back and forgot, obviously, and started working on something else. So I have this window die cut by Sizzix and Tim Holtz, and I'm going to run it through this embossing folder that's made to look like wood, because I want my window to have a wood look. So this is what my pieces look like once they have their woody element. Then I'm going to take some Camel acrylic paint. This is Handmade Modern, the Target craft paint brand. And this is watercolor paper. And I used watercolor paper because I wanted it to be a little thick so I could stand up to adding paint and a little bit of water, because I'm going to use the water to kind of fade out some of that ink or paint I have. And then I'm going to take my Lindy's in My Mojito Green and Treasure Island Aqua. Some nice green colors. The Treasure Island Aqua has like a little bit of brown to it, which matches like the kind of wood kind of window look that I'm going for. And I'm just going to add touches here and there. I'm definitely trying to leave some white space around my pieces. And I'm just going to drop in color here and there until I'm happy with the way that it looks. And then I'm also going to add the distress inks that I used for the background paper piece, just so I can get like a cohesive look. And then I'm going to take some Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus in Venetian Brown. And I just wanted a little bit of a darker brown color. This is super pigmented, so I just put a teeny tiny drop out and added quite a bit of water to kind of make the color not so intense. And once I was happy with that, I don't know what happened to this clip. I took a piece of acetate and I inked it with alcohol ink in purple and blue to make it look like a window. And I don't know what happened to that clip. So I cut it to fit behind my window, and then I glued that down with glossy accents. And then I put a ghost behind the window, so it looks like you're looking through the window and the ghost is there, but he's veiled by the alcohol inked acetate. Yeah, so I also edged all of my pieces of my window with black soot distress ink, and then I sprayed it with water to get that water droplet look, although you really can't tell that much. So being the dum-dum that I am, I'm like, how am I going to cut out this area of the window behind my glass? And then I realized there was a piece that came with the die that cuts out that piece, but not before I traced it with a pencil, thinking I was going to have to cut it out. It takes me a while, but I get there sometimes. So yeah, I just ran that extra piece through my die cutting machine to cut out that hole behind the window. And then I can use my glossy accents to glue my window piece in, and then my bottom piece and my top piece. And before I glue it though, I want to make sure that I like the way it looks on the tag, like the size of it. And I did bring that top piece down a little bit so that the window is not quite as tall, and then I'm going to just trim off that excess and then add that little decorative piece there at the top as well. And then I'm going to zhuzh up my little background a little bit. These are supposed to be antlers. They're by Cat Kerr and Viva Las Vegas stamps, but I think when you stamp them like in sections like this, they add like a really creepy kind of vibe. So I'm just going to use my StazOn ink in black and stamp around the background piece. And then I'm going to take my Distress Oxide in Twisted Citron, and this is a Waybill invoice stamp. And I picked this stamp because the paper has like one of the faded layers is kind of like an invoice looking thing, but it didn't really show up with the oxide, the green. And then I'm going to stamp my favorite row of numbers just around like the edges a little bit. And then this is a moon shape with bats, and I'm just going to stamp that at the top, and then a little bit of the circle at the bottom just to add a little bit of balance. And then this tree is not a Halloween stamp necessarily, but when you add it to a piece like this, it kind of has like a little bit of a creepy vibe. So I'm just going to stamp that because I want it to look like a little bit of a scene behind my window. Once I put my window in, I want it to look like looking out the window, but it's kind of like outside, and it's a creepy kind of scene back there. And then I have this die cut spider web. I got these at Michael's 2 or 3 years ago maybe. They're very thin, like maybe a vellum almost, and I just added a little bit of that. And then I'm going to take my Inca Gold metallic rub in hematite, and it dried out, so I added water to it and let it sit for like weeks, shook it up and stirred it up. And I feel like when you pay $70 for a product like this, that, you know, it should not dry out like this. I'm very disappointed with these. I only have 3 of them, but still, that's plenty. Anyway, so I'm just going to add a little bit of, no, I added a little bit of water, but then I'm going to put a little bit out on my craft sheet, and then just use my finger to rub that color along my die cut bats. And this is a Tim Holtz bat die. It's the new 2019 release, and it just gives them a little extra something, so they're not just like a flat black. And then for my gravestones, I'm going to take Primary Elements in pewter, and I wanted to make kind of like a paste, kind of like the Inca Gold. So I'm going to add some of the pigment powder, add a tiny bit of water, and then I'm going to add some gel medium to kind of make it into more of a paste, a more manageable paste. And I'm just going to add that gel and mix it up until I'm kind of happy with the way that it looks, but I don't really know how it's going to look until I put it on the cardstock. And this is just really cheapy, $5 a pack for like 200 sheets of black cardstock. So it doesn't hold up to a ton of media, but it does the job. So I'm going to use my paintbrush to add quite a bit of that pewter here and there, and this is how it looks. It kind of looks the same, honestly. Like I could have used the Inca Gold for both, really. I didn't have to go through all that, but I thought it was going to add a little bit of a different look but in the end it doesn't really matter. But I didn't know that at the time. So I'm going to use my tape runner to glue my paper piece down, which is not straight, which is the story of my life. But whatever. And then I'm going to take a little bit of black soot distress ink and edge it a little bit and bring it in quite a bit as well to get a little bit of a black veil. And then I'm going to start gluing my pieces down. So I'm going to use my glossy accents to glue my gravestones down at the bottom. And then I die cut some leaves from, this is a Tim Holtz leaf die. And I colored them with the same colors of ink that I used in the background, the Lindy's and the distress ink. I don't know what happened to that clip either. Probably the same place the acetate clip went. So I didn't intentionally leave that out, but yeah, so it's just greens and browns to match. And then I did some in blacks and browns, but I don't think I end up using any of that. But I'm going to layer my tombstones, some on top and some on the bottom. And then, so this is the new, no, this is last year's paper pack by Tim Holtz. And it has this like metallic piece to it that has like this orange metallic. So I'm going to take the cat and this candlestick, and I'm going to die cut the cat's eyes out of that orange and also the flame piece out of that orange. This is not my idea. I saw this on one of the pieces that Tim Holtz showed in his Facebook Live that where he was advertising the new Sizzix dies. And then that other piece I showed you had like different distress inks on it. I just used it to like kind of mop up some of the excess ink that I had after I colored those leaves in. And it just made like a delightful kind of gray spotty look. So I die cut the base out of that sheet and then the flame out of that metallic piece. And then I'm just going to layer them up to make them a little more dimensional. And then the flame, I cut like a little, I backed it on a piece of plain cardstock and gave it like a little tail so it had something to stick to the candlestick. And then I'm going to edge the whole thing with black soot. And then I'm going to use my glossy accents to glue the metallic piece onto my cat. And let me tell you guys, I'm looking at this cat when I first got it. I'm like, why does he have 4 eyes? In the still shots, look at it. After I tell you this, tell me if you thought it had 4 eyes too. But after I'm looking at it for a while and I'm thinking, why does it have 4 eyes? I realize it's just supposed to be like a cat eye shape with like, you know, the line down the middle. But to me, when I looked at it right away, it looked like it had 4 eyes. At any rate, so his eyes look like they're glowing, and I glued him and the candlestick down. And then for sentiment, I have this stamp by Viva Las Vegas Stamps, and I'm going to stamp it on that same piece of paper that I used to sop up the excess ink. And I'm just going to cut that out. I'm going to cut each line out and then glue that down with glossy accents. And then for a final finishing touch, I'm going to add some white splatters. This is the Sidewalk Chalk Lindy's, but it was not quite, I guess, pigmented or white enough for me. So then I'm going to take my titanium white Liquitex ink instead and add splatters with that. And that made me a bit more happy. And I thought I was going to be done, and that was that. But I thought it needed like a little, maybe something more else. I don't know. I was looking at it here and it looks fine. But when I was working on it, I thought it needed something else. So I'm going to take this creepy cloth well, okay, so I get creepy cloth from the dollar store, the black and the cream, and then I cut it apart for elements in my crafts. So this is just the black creepy cloth from the dollar store. And to hold it in place for the time being, I'm going to use some washi tape, but then I'm going to back the whole thing with like a piece of cardstock so everything really stays sandwiched in and doesn't go anywhere, because that washi tape is not going to hold it. I also needed to add a little bit of glossy accents to the top there where my tape wouldn't reach down and hold on to that creepy cloth. And then I'm going to tatter the edges a little bit more so they're not so straight. And then that is it for my tag. Thank you so much for watching, and we will be back. I don't know if I'm gonna, since it's so late today, I might wait until the morning, day after tomorrow, to upload the next video. So we're more on like a schedule, but you know, I get so excited once they're ready. I want them to go out. So thank you for watching. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, guys. I almost forgot to mention. So Lifebook 2020 registration opened yesterday, October 1st. If you want to sign up and get the early bird price of 20% off, the discount code is LOVEBOMB2020, all caps. I will put that in the description box down below, along with the link where you can check it out if you want to sign up and or learn more about it. I also am able to give away one spot to the class. So if you're interested in winning a spot to Lifebook 2020, just comment down below in the comments and let me know that you want to win a spot, and you'll be entered to win a spot. So yeah, link for Lifebook down below. If you're interested, check it out. And yeah, okay, bye-bye guys.